When I was in 6th grade, I got my phone taken up in the dumbest way possible. Basically, me and my friend Ben were working on an assignment in our social studies class, and midway through, we realized that the assignment was super easy, so we started goofing off and going on our phones because we knew we could just finish it in the last 2 minutes of class. But then our teacher walked over to us and told us that we were off task and that we needed to finish our assignment before we went on our phones, and we were like, oh, okay, no worries. So we proceeded to finish the assignment within the next 5 minutes, turn it in, and then we went back on our phones because we were done with all of our work for the day. But then the teacher walked back over to us and said, hey, you're not supposed to be on your phones. And we were like, no, we finished the assignment. And she kind of took a step back. But at this point, some other kids were looking over at us, and I guess she didn't want to seem like we were undermining her authority in front of other students. So she immediately took a step forward and said, I don't care, I'm gonna need your phones. And me and Ben looked at each other like, what? Like, we seriously couldn't believe what we were hearing, but she was the teacher, so we had to listen to her. So we reluctantly gave her our phones, and she sent them to the front office, and we had to go and get them at the end of the day. And the entire situation just felt so pointless. Like, me and Ben still vividly remember this incident till this day, and this was almost a decade ago. And if that wasn't ridiculous enough, my school proceeded to ban phones the next year, which I talked about in this video right here. I just think it's kind of annoying when teachers will flex their power for no apparent reason, and when my actual teachers do it, it's one thing, but it's even more annoying when subs will do it. Like, I understand that students will mess with substitute teachers, so they might feel the need to assert themselves, but a lot of times they're just doing way too much. For example, in 7th grade, we had a substitute teacher in my first period science class, and I remember it was winter time because I was wearing a puffer jacket indoors because I run pretty cold, especially in the mornings. But as soon as I walked into class, the sub was like, hey, you better take that puffer jacket off right now. That's outdoor clothing. We don't play that indoors. I was like, what? I was in disbelief. You see, I went to public school. There was literally no dress code against wearing a puffer jacket indoors. I don't know what this guy was on. He was mad rude for no reason. It got to the point where he was rejecting people's requests to use the restroom. I mean, it was so ridiculous that it started to get funny, and I would have laughed if I wasn't clattering my teeth because I was freezing my buns off. But for me, one of the most memorable substitute stories happened when I was in 12th grade. My English teacher had gone on vacation with her family, and we had this old woman as a sub. She was one of those retired teachers that would sub to keep busy, and she seemed nice enough at first, but she would also do really weird things. Like, she would go on these long, rambling tangents about the British royal family, and all due respect to all the British people out there, but I don't really care about your royal family. I don't know why she thought that a group of American teenage high schoolers would care about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Like, bro, what? Anyways, for that English class, we had a list of 100 vocab words from the books we were reading that we had to memorize and eventually be quizzed on. It was one of those things where we were given a list of 100 words with their definitions, and then on the quiz day, we had to match the words to the definitions. It was kind of pointless because it was literally just a game of briefly memorizing the words and their definitions and not really understanding how they're used in their context. So as soon as we took the quiz, I forgot all of them. And just so you know, I got 100 on all of those vocab exercises, and 3 years later, I don't remember a single one of those vocab words, so clearly that exercise helped. Anyways, some people would try to cheat on these exercises by keeping their phone in their lap with the full list of vocab words on it and would peek periodically and write the answers down. Now, this was very risky because the teacher would be vigilantly looking out to make sure people weren't cheating, but since she was on vacation and we had a sub, I guess this one dude in the back of the class thought it would be a good idea to try to have his phone out during the quiz. But I guess this old sub was trying to prove that she was old school and tough because she went full TSA mode. I mean, she was walking in between the desks just staring at us. I mean, it was hard for me to focus with her looming over my shoulder. But then around halfway through the quiz, as I'm locking in, I just hear whoosh, coming from the back of the class. Everyone turns back, and it turned out the sub grabbed the quiz off the guy who was cheating's desk as loud as possible for some reason, and she shook her head and said, "What a shame, what a shame." Here's the thing, like, I understand she needed to punish him for cheating, but her reaction was so weird to me. Like, her tone was so condescending. It really felt like she was looking forward to grabbing someone's sheet off their desk and making this big scene. And the guy was clearly flustered and taken aback, and I don't really care about him, but it was such a goofy move to me because that moment was clearly the highlight of her week. I just didn't like it when substitutes would flex their power for the sake of it like that. The greatest sub I ever had was this old Asian man who didn't speak 2 words of English. He would just hand us the attendance sheet and go sit at his desk and watch YouTube for the entire period and just gave us time to work on our assignments. Like, that guy allowed me to be more productive than the weirdo British obsessed grandma. But annoying substitute teachers I could deal with. Redundant classes, however, I really couldn't. Now, you know how you're supposed to have the core 4 classes in every grade level? 1 math, 1 English, 1 science, and 1 social studies. On paper, it makes sense. Those are 4 very relevant subjects, but like I just said, it became very redundant over time. Like, social studies was the worst of the bunch because history can be one of the most interesting subjects of them all, especially something as rich and dense as American history. But I felt like we just kept learning the same things year after year. Like, bro, the constitutional conventions, we went over that in 5th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade. I don't know why the state of Texas was so insistent on us learning about the same subjects over and over and over again. And anytime we learned about something fresh and interesting, my teachers would just brush past it. Like, this is John Brown, a radical abolitionist who led a violent slave revolt and was sentenced to death by the United States government for his actions. Faced by the court and his pending execution, he spoke. Now, if it is deemed necessary that I should forfeit my life for the furtherance of the ends of justice, and mingle my blood further with the blood of my children, and with the blood of millions in this slave country, whose rights are disregarded by wicked, cruel, and unjust enactments, I submit. So let it be done. My teachers proceeded to call him a crazed lunatic and immediately moved on, you know, after talking about Andrew Jackson for 6 weeks. But you know, at this point, I think that we've all realized that the history that we learned in school was extremely biased and doctored. At this point, I've done my best to get over it. I think the real issue with the classes that I took is that they didn't prepare me for life at all. I mean, I would have loved to take a personal finance class and learned financial literacy and how to do my taxes and what are good investments to make. I mean, I took an AP Econ class my senior year, and while I learned how the greater US economy works as a whole, I didn't really learn how to make or manage money, so it was sort of useful, but not really. You know, some people would say that it's like that by design, and we're really just taught to be obedient in school, and while I'm not really sure to what extent I believe that, if there was any truth behind that theory, it would have to originate from the fact that we need teacher approval for everything, including basic bodily functions. Like, a lot of times it was just little things that annoyed me. When I was in 11th grade, my last period was physics, and probably once or twice a week, I would finish all my work in that class with 20 to 30 minutes still on the clock, and me and my friend would ask the teacher if we could leave class early because we were done with all of our work, and she'd say, "No, you gotta wait until the end of class." So we were just sitting there for 20 to 30 minutes doing absolutely nothing until the school day was officially over. I guess the logic behind that is they don't want unruly teenagers loitering outside before school is over, but my rebuttal to that is, why am I held to the same standard of behavior as this guy who's causing all of the problems? I don't know, maybe it's just me, let me know in the comments, but I had a lot of strange experiences like that when I was in school.